Hello, this is Robert James Fremantle giving you another report on gaming. This time, Warhammer 40K and the 6th edition is here. It has launched this summer. What are we getting? Well, I'm going to talk about some of the new rules and some thoughts, some opinions from my side. Now, some of you may have seen the video I did before called Warhammer Try a New Game. Link on screen. But with that video, I'm sort of suggesting, look, there's been a big old price rise, why not take a look at what the other games are out there as well, just to sort of balance up the odds. I'm not saying boycott GW by any means. Now, I must say, with the new edition, though, of for 40k, the 6th edition, I think some of the changes are quite interesting. So I'm going to go through some of them, the ones that I think are pertinent, that I could form an opinion on, and give you that opinion. Let's go. Now, one of the big things that's been said about the new edition is that, oh, they've gone down the fantasy route a little bit. They've made it too much like fantasy. And yes, Fantasy 8th edition, when that came out, it's sort of considered that fantasy kind of died and that droves of people left it. And then, of course, you've got people left over saying, no, I actually quite like it. It's fine. I like it this way, but I think they lost a lot of people when it came out, of course, but to have any element that's like fantasy is initially, on paper, really sounds quite dangerous from a strategic marketing point of view, doesn't it? But while one of the things they did indeed copy over from fantasy is pre-measuring, so you can get the tape out and you can check the distance of anything to anything at any point. Before, if you had a unit away from a unit and you were going to be like, okay, well, I want to shoot at that unit. I don't know if they're in range. I'm just going to have to gamble. And I think they are. You'd have to just judge by eye. But you had a lot of cheesy things happening, like a unit next to a shooter unit, right? And they might have somebody in there with just like a little pistol. He's definitely out of range for the pistol, 12 inches, yeah? But he nominates a shot on a unit that he knows is well out of range anyway, and then takes his shot and misses, as it was going to anyway, just so he could get the tape out and check how, to start to sort of like, ooh, yeah, let's check some ranges here going on with the tape. Just starting to sum it up. Now, that's really beardy. But it's that kind of thing that was able to happen and just ruin the fun element of the game, to be honest. And that's why I don't go to tournaments, because people are trying too hard to win at a win at all costs mentality. I can't enjoy the game if my opponent is hunting me so aggressively. It's supposed to be a back and forth enjoyable game. You're supposed to help your opponent enjoy the game as well. The pre-measuring sort of goes hand in hand with the other rule they've brought in, which is the random charges, which again is borrowed from fantasy. Random charges, eh? Now, I am going to come forward and say this. I think random charges in fantasy were silly, because it meant that the disparity that you would normally find in dwarves' lesser movement is much less. For example, I know that they thought, well, we're bringing it into play because of the pre-measuring at any point, the free measuring. You kind of need one and the other. All right, okay. I didn't think it worked so well for fantasy. Normal movement in fantasy is 4, marching is 8, charging is 8, and then that's the average. There's things that break that norm. Right? That's old fantasy. Now it's like the movement and the dice thrown, and it could be anything. I mean, if you had like a result of 7 or something like that, then you just lost an inch off of what would have been your normal charge. Now in 40k, all movement is 6. Okay, for all troops. So they move faster in the movement phases. But all assaulting used to be also 6, just straight up 6 for infantry troops. Okay, that we understand. Now, though, it's movement 6, and then charging is 2d6. Now, you can't really compare them, because I think for 40k, it'll work out all right. Reason being is that, of course, in 40k, if your average charge is 6, and then the average on 2 dice is going to be about 7, on the whole, you're probably going to gain a bit of movement rather than lose. There's going to be times when you will roll disappointingly, and oh gosh, it's not coming off. The gap isn't so widely different as it is in fantasy. So I think it would be alright because of what the originals were. Now we come next to wound allocation. Right, quite different here. When 5th came out and they were saying true line of sight, so you could get down there with a little laser pointer and check from the model's point of view and see what he can see and really get down at that table. The first notions of it being fun, because it would make scenery matter more, you know, really came into play. The idea that you're putting yourself onto the battlefield and, you know, you're checking, you're really getting down there and saying, oh, this is great, you know. Yes, this crater really means something, okay? You know, we are in it, and that building over there, yeah, oh, can we just get at him in the window there? Really fun. Now, the changes they've brought to wound allocation and sighting and that sort of thing, I think takes that and carries it further down its intended road, the road of further benefit from it, right? Because what they've now got is, if you're shooting at a unit before, and you'd have like some of them completely out of sight, and then some of them in cover, and then some of them a bit open, out in the open, then you'd be able to just allocate, if you can see some of the unit you can shoot at them, you'd be able to shoot at them, and if the majority was in cover, then they'd get the cover save, all of them, even the ones that are not in cover, and then you'd even be able to get kill the ones that are not even being able to be shot, technically, so that kind of works against, logically, the laser pointer, doesn't it? Even have coming in 5th, because there's guys behind a building who wouldn't be able to be shot, and yet they're being removed as casualties. So, what? That's gone. That's gone, okay? So those guys behind that building now in 6th, they wouldn't be able to be removed as casualties. There's a big solid wall. There's no way anyone can target them. They are safe. That's it, right? The other thing, though, with the removal, in that sort of situation, is that if there were people sort of out in the open and some still in cover, they could say, yes, we're going to focus fire on the ones out in the open. So then, what's going to happen is, we only fire at the ones out in the open, so that means that if any of the firing squad have got to any other model they're trying to fire at, 25% cover on that model from any one member of the squad, then he gets a cover save, right? But if there's some that have less than 25% on all the models firing, all those are out in the open, okay? So those out in the open guys, you can say, we're focusing firing on them. They get no cover save at all, but you can only remove casualties from those ones, those focus-fired models. So if you get spillover, they can't be taken from the guys in the cover. Now that's interesting, because that, again, really takes the positioning, the point of you using scenery, really into account. It takes the laser pen mentality of sighting up and really, really bringing the emphasis down to the table. I like that. I like it a lot, I've got to say. Model removal is now from the front, from the firer's point of view. Okay, because there is no, remember, there's no front of unit per se, because you're just a mass, you're a skirmishy mass. But what they've done now with the removal thing is that whatever model would be at the front, so if you've got like the rocket launcher guy at the front and the rest have all got like bolters or whatever, that rocket launcher guy is going to get shot at first because you have to remove the closest model to the person shooting at him, right? It makes you take into account the positioning of your squad, who's where, you know, that sergeant type or that character type. But then another copy over from fantasy, the sort of look out sir thing where they can do a roll to have one of their ones run in and take the blast instead of him. So gone are the days when you'll be able to do this remove from the back sort of thing just to, you know, keep the guy there that you want to preserve, the one with the nice weaponry or setup. But of course, now, that also means that if you are going to try and hunt for that particular model, that character in the unit, then you're going to have to be a bit tactical because the shooter decides what order the shots get resolved in. So he might say, right, yeah, well, I'm going to resolve the rapid fire shots because he's got a load of normal troops at the front, and the guy he wants is maybe a bit at the back. So he's hoping, all right, well, you know, the bolters will take out the guys at the front. Now he's exposed. Nice, all right. Lasgun. Oh, now the lasgun, now he's exposed. So, you're on it. So the shooter's deciding, you know, which guns to resolve first. So hopefully he can sort of like skew what shots are going to go where. That way there's a sort of tactics to that now. Of course, The other downside of that is sometimes the unit you're shooting, if they're moving from the front, that means they're further away from the unit. So if it's an assault weapons unit, they're looking to charge them afterwards. Well, you've just made the unit you want to charge further away for that 2d6 random roll. You may not get them now. And conversely, the other way around, they may not get to you because you've made them further away. Who knows? Who knows, to be honest. Another interesting thing it does do, though, is it sort of brings flanks into it now. Because, yes, you might be hiding your important guy at the back so he can still shoot, right? But he's going to be the last one targetable. But then what happens if something comes on from behind and now he is the closest model? All right, so the rear flanking has taken effect. I like that. It's really clever. Again, it's put the focus back onto the table, hasn't it? Now we move on to something that I have to admit I'm not keen on, and that's the allies chart, all right? The fact that it has been so officially made part of the rulebook, and it's part of the army selection process. No, that doesn't seem right to me somehow. This idea of allies, I feel a cynical part of me just coming out saying, oh God, it's just going to dominate the tournament scene. It's just cheese, cheese, cheese. Oh, I can do this combination with that. And I know that's supposed to be the idea of it, but to me, what it says is, Games Workshop want to sell more models than they would have normally sold. To me, I see marketing ploy. My old cynical mind, you might be jumping for joy saying, oh, I want to put this with this, that's great. But technically, it could be a bit broken what you were doing. That isn't really good for the game. Now, I don't have a problem against doing it sometimes, sure. There might be situations where, storyline-wise, two things might need to join up. There might be if the plot that you're playing, if you actually have like a storyline campaign type of thing with your opponents that you play, it's a great way to be able to bring in other elements, storyline-wise. I don't feel that I would want to have a game like that's happening as an almost definite thing, like it's got to happen every game. And that's why I would avoid tournaments. And really, there's nothing more fluffy than fighting against the proper enemy that you should be fighting against. Because yes, poor orcs, they get put probably as pawns to chaos once more, the indignity of it once more, or pawns to somebody. They're always just the stupid pawns that you send at the trouble. And, that's coming from an orc player, to be honest, who's never been very happy with the state of the way that it's treated. But yes, I don't think I'm all that happy about it. To me, it just sounds like a bit like a commercial ploy. That they're going to just try and get you to buy more models and have bigger games with those models so that you can fit the extra models in as well, more points. We've said here that combat seems to have been a bit nerfed and the shooting's been made a fair bit more powerful. And it has. Both of those statements are really fair to say, because we've also got snap firing. So that means that all the heavy stuff that normally wouldn't be able to fire, it's move or shoot, right? You can still shoot it if you move, but it's 6s to hit. I mean, that's nice. I approve of that. It takes the element of shooting and puts it, back in there. To me, it does sound a bit more movie-esque. He's coming along and just fires that bazooka and off it goes. Whoa, I hope it's all right. Under that emergency situation, if you have got a heavy weapon, I'm sure you would loose it off, wouldn't you, on the run, just to try and distract the enemy. If you've got a great big tank firing at you and you're running with the thing, you're not going to wait to stop first before you return fire, are you? You're going to fire that thing for the sake of your own life. You might get a lucky shot and stop the tank. You might. Might is better than not firing and getting blown to hell, isn't it? Exactly. So snapshots are quite cool, and they've put the firing as more of a powerful thing again. Challenges in combat. Are you excited about that? Are you excited about the challenges in combat? I'd be happy if it was just like only special characters can challenge other special characters, I think. Otherwise, I don't know. It sounds a bit pants to me, I've got to say. It's just another thing to really complicate the process. They're trying to simplify the process of combat, and it's just like another thing to worry about inside that combat. So he's not doing it, so now he's got to go to the back and he can't take part in the fight. But is he taking part, and what's the positions of can he be able to know who's hitting him now? Because it's just an unnecessary thing, I think. Let combat be what it is. But yeah, oh well. But of course, with the improved focus on firing as well, we have the Overwatch thing, which is effectively a fantasy stand and shoot, sort of. All right. So then, if you're getting charged, you can nominate to you're overwatching on that unit, so you can all get a little pop at that unit with like a less chance to hit, and you might take a few casualties off them. Who knows? But then it's really tactical because you might have 2 units about to charge them, and you might if one goes in now and they Overwatch shoot against them, then once the other one gets in that was a little bit further back, they're not going to be able to do an Overwatch against the second one because they're already locked in combat. Whereas if you'd have had this one go first, they might not have made it, and then they could have Overwatched against them, and who knows. It's going for the more, sometimes maybe, the guaranteed unit that can charge, locks them in so that the other one can attempt its charge without the risk of taking a hellstorm of crap in them for free. So there's going to be all of these extra tactics coming into play, and how scenery's become more interesting and more focused. Overall, I think it sounds like an improvement. The Psychers thing and the possible random rolling in the book doesn't sound all that interesting to me. Psychers don't actually sound that interesting to me. Psyker powers, to be good, they've either had to be a bit broken in the past, or just, that's it really, a bit broken. Something that is like the one you must use at the tournament scene. That just makes me sick, that does. It really does. That power game ideal of this is what you do to win. This is the power you must always take. I don't know how they're going to change things in the rulebooks, to be honest. I mean, obviously when the new rulebooks come out, they'll have new definitions, and they might have new Psyker abilities and things that work to the rulebook, and they might say, oh, see rulebook, or these are the expanded upon with your codex entry and whatever, but I don't know. Obviously, the price of everything's a bit balmy as well. I only have ordered the 6th edition book. I'm still waiting for it to arrive online because I managed to get a percentage off of it. There's some crazy prices. They've effectively priced me out of it. There's no way I'd just be able to go into the store and just buy units and things like before. I'd have to sort of try and find cheaper sources, maybe second hand, unwanted presents on eBay or God knows what, just that's it. Or just use what I've got if I'm going to be giving this a go. I suppose, yeah, the whole Psyker thing, it's never been massively interesting to me because, you're in a sci-fi setting. So really, I like to concentrate on the sci-fi elements and the vehicles and the spaceships and the things like that. Of course, talking of vehicles, you now have hull points on a vehicle, so you'll be able to, glancing, hit a thing down to death. Of course, the chances are, yes, it's probably not going to get one shot on turn 1 like it used to. Maybe on turn 2 this time instead, if it's really being heavily focused. But again, it's a way of making them destroyable, I suppose, isn't it? The fact that you don't have to be locked into combat against something you can't beat. I remember playing in some smaller skirmish games, and the deciding factor of it at those low points levels would be if my orcs had a killer can along as well, because they didn't have anything that could really bring that killer can down, and they were stuck in combat. And of course, they shall know no fear. Yeah. Well, now you can break off. I think all mostly good positive changes, and I think it will be down to the character of the players or how much they break it. So myself and my opponents, we'd say no allies chart. We're not going to abuse that. We're not going to overdo it. We want fluffy battles, thanks. This versus this, like it should be, and have at it. Yes, I can kind of see, if you mostly play Imperial Guard, why some Space Marines might turn up. Yes, but don't stick it in your list and run it every game, right? Games Workshop want you to do that. They want you to spend all the money on the extra models, but I don't like that. It doesn't sound right to keep on doing that. Sometimes, okay. So, for us, we don't feel that we'd be abusing it. We'll play it what we think is fairly. We'll see how it goes. I'm overall interested, and I definitely do want to give this edition a go. I think it's worth a crack in amongst everything else that's going, if it can become financially viable to do, that is. Well, that's been my thoughts on the 6th edition of the 40k rulebook. What are your thoughts? What do you think about these new rules? Let me know below. But until next time, I'll see you at the table.